Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Playshop, hosted by Alighten Ministries and Wayfinder Sanctuary. My name is Suzanne Glick, and I'm going to be your host today for going through some of our content on how to launch your learning center. Today, we're going to cover some of the content from our last 3 webinars so that we have a nice little nutshell for you to get into that, because the replays could take you a while to get through. There's a lot of content here for everyone to explore, and we'd like to keep it succinct because this is our journey from the webinars and the outreach part over the bridge to open the Auditors course. This course has been under construction for 3 years, and we have come to the threshold of launching the course, and we are inviting special people that have time, energy, and focus to share with us as we refine our process. The Auditors course is a commitment, and it is also a great tool that you can use to build in your community and also for your own self-development. So we are hopeful that you will find it as enriching as we have, as we've been on this journey a long time. When we started our first series of webinars in June, we looked at education reform and the status of the economic system and how to work within the old system as it's falling apart and rebuild from the inside out. That journey is very dynamic, and it takes a lot of courage to step into that world. You have to be a visionary to be able to see where you're going and where you can go and inspire others to follow you. So if you don't know about the education system as it's tied to the economic system, that these have both come from the Industrial Revolution, and they both have an industrial form. The roots of everything that we know and the indoctrination that we have been subjected to for many generations, is time for that to come to ashes and rise something else brand new out of it. And that's where you come in. Because if you're here, either you've already studied this or someone has told you something that sparked your curiosity to study it. We are going to work outside of this system completely. And with our community that's growing stronger every day, we truly believe that this is possible. You have to ask yourself a series of questions to be able to start your journey. Do you want your family, your child, and your legacy to continue participating in this industrial model? Do you want your children to be worker bees, soulless automatons, debt slaves? I think the resounding answer for that will be no. And when it's put in that framework, it's impossible to ignore that the system that you've been born into is one that needs to be revised. There are many ways you can get there. We have a sister community called Unschooling the Mind Academy. That group is helping people come out of the indoctrination that they've been programmed into and reclaim their sovereign rights as autonomous humans. Alighten Ministries as well is doing the same good work in the world. And the best part about working with Alighten is that there's a great big safe umbrella for you to put your organization under as you get your feet under you and understand the work ahead. We're going to cover that a little bit more later. Narratives and storytelling can be told and used through a system that we have developed, which is universal and indigenous driven, and we call it the 3P based learning system. It's not a program. It's something that you design from your soul outward to the people that you're working with. The 3 Ps are place, play, and project-based learning. Especially if you're new to homeschooling or unschooling, place is the best place to start. If you go in your backyard and you discover what's right in front of you, your bioregion, your climate, your growing season, landmarks and features that are around you. And you bring your children with you to this discovery with ease. You can enter a home learning environment. This is where abundance and change within your community can grow. Because if you're carrying the torch of inspiration, others are going to see your light and they're going to light their own. Play-based learning is now finally, with science backing it, discovered that children learn best through play. We knew that all along, and I think you probably do too. Project-based learning can cover all the bases of all grades and all ages, where you engage your hands, which are your most important learning tools, to inspire your mind and then drive the will force. This is where the most productive cycles of learning and creativity are born. Failure within your own family is something you do not need to be afraid of. I think, Lee, you can share more about that. It's just,
Sure.
it is a jarring concept when we speak of failure as part of a learning cycle, a productive learning cycle. And I think that before we go any further into this content, we need to clarify what we mean by that and welcome it in, and do not be afraid of having it on your journey with your education plans.
Right. So play-based learning, we can think of it, we can throw it around and say play is how we learn. However, it's a very specific kind of structure that play is housed in, because it is very easy for us as parents and mentors and guides that have, and teachers who have participated in the industrial school model, that we think of as play within certain parameters and being goal oriented. And that's actually antithesis to what it is that play is about. It is the acceptance that there will be an unknown outcome that will come through the process, and it's not, and that failure is possible, meaning that the outcome that you imagine to be from whatever it is happening is only a projection of your own current reality. And what happens in play, if you set it up in the right way, there will be an emergent experience with everyone, including the facilitator, including the teacher, including the person that is creating the thing. And that is part of the initiative process in creating a learning center as well, is that if you're engaging it in a way that the pillars of curiosity and creativity and imagination are held, then there will be an emergent understanding that may not be what it is that you imagined it to be. And it is the judgment of it didn't fit the thing that I thought I was going to have that is actually the failure. So it's not a failure because it's not, well, we perceive it as a failure, but the relationship with failure is, I'm glad that it failed because I actually found out what reality is in the process of play. I found out the emergent things that I was not aware of before I entered into the process of playing with these concepts, playing with these other people, playing with, because there's always things that we are not perceptive of. We come into a situation like a game or an initiative where we think we know the parameters, but we actually do not know everything about everything that we're entering into. And so it's a very spirit oriented framework of, I'm going to discover what is here. And so eventually that idea of failure disappears. And that is the result of being in a play-based mentality and a play-based structure, is that failure eventually isn't actually a thing at all. And the reason why we talk about failure is because that is something that everyone is afraid of. We're all afraid of our initiative failing. We're all afraid of our children failing. Like we're afraid of it not meeting some kind of projected outcome. And reality is that those projected outcomes are oftentimes put on us by conditioning that is part of the industrialized system, and we're all trying to break out of that.
Yes, let's bring that back to the context of the Auditors course itself, because that's why we want to play with you in the course. We know that the systems in the course, the 12 steps, works because we've done it over and over again, and we've followed our own map many times, and we've had varying degrees of success and failure throughout the process, and we're still learning. So if you can witness us going through this process without the fear of failure, without the attachment to a prescriptive ideal, with the energy of play and project and place behind you, there is no failure. It is all success because you're on a learning curve. And then when you meet the child and the class and the children and the parents that are going to be in your initiative, with that in mind, they will then be able to overcome that same blockage, that same indoctrination. You can lead by example. That's why we spend so much time on this particular topic. And with these 3 P's, you get to have a lot more fun. So,
well, and you
okay,
also get the ability for ensoulment to rise within every process, which is why it's so important to be able to engage in it in this way.
well, that's where the spark of inspiration lives. Because where does your vision come from? Essentially, it comes from within and without, outside of you. So we ask ourselves a lot of questions in this process, and we continually come back to the path of inquiry and discovery, which leads us to the answers. So if you ask yourself these questions, and this is actually the embodiment of what is step 1, we're giving you a little sneak peek here of the first step in the course, which is all about holding the vision. So if you begin before the beginning to ask yourself what the soul of your initiative is. What is your vision? How are you holding it? And where does it want to go? If you just sit with that before making your commitment to join us, you'll be able to answer this question of whether you want a learning center or whether you want help with it. I'm not going to answer any of these questions right now. These belong to you. So I like that Amber chose this picture for the slide because I came to an old church that had just recently been bought, and it needed to be gutted and cleaned. And I was offered a job, a position in leadership to pilot a high school art class and teach chemistry at the same time, because those are the 2 classes that were missing. So this ugly little basement classroom turned into the most dynamic center of the entire program, where all the arts were happening, the hands were busy, the children were engaged, and their environment was secondary to the learning curve that they were on, the journey that they were on. It was so telling to me that it doesn't matter where you are or what you've got, you don't have to have a completely finished building, location, curriculum. Everything can be part of your growth and learning experience. And the outcomes are coming out of the soul forces and into the material reality. So these embodied educational experiences is something everyone can be striving for, but most people don't even know that that's what speaks to them when they're in their public school environment. You might have had one teacher that really saw you. You might have never experienced that until you were in college, or maybe you didn't experience it at all in your education. But there was probably someone somewhere along the line that inspired you to do your best even within the system if you were in it. because they appeal to your soul desires, and then gave you practical steps to manifest what it was that was in your inner vision. Step 2 in the course deals with leadership team building. Because unless you're a maverick, some kind of mighty force, doing this alone is virtually impossible. But who will join you? Who can you trust to carry the torch? Who can you work with that you know is going to be in alignment with your goals and share them and bring you beyond your own vision? This is important because without a team, you are going to burn out. Time and again, we have consulting opportunities with leaders that are holding too tightly to their vision and they're immovable. They don't want to share it, they want it the way they want it, and then they fail to realize it in a fulfilling and sustainable way. That's different than the failure that we're talking about in play, place, and project building. This is something else. This is a breaking down of your own fantasy of what it can be and bringing it to a community level where you'll be able to merge and blend with others. And that kind of investment, once everyone is sharing the load, that is immovable, because the investment from the soul is the investment that counts. And learning how to govern and lead together is the key to overcoming all the obstacles that you'll face on the journey. I think it would be great if Amber could share from your experience about why this step is so critical, because step 3 in the coursework is all about finding your governance system, and that includes managing what happens between your world and your reality, and you're protected under your umbrella with your private member association, or if you have to interface or choose to interface with the governing agencies that are the overculture that we're working with right now. So if you want to open a co-op, or if you want to have a licensed and registered childcare program, you're going to need to have some kind of toolbox to be able to successfully engage with those organizations and agencies. If you choose to step all the way out, or maybe there'll be a hybrid process to get you from inside those public agencies to inside your own private agency, that's where we can come in and help you the most. And this is probably the most important part of your entire journey, is setting up your protections.
Yeah, so under here we have protection, then we have ecclesiastical law, which is based, it is scriptural based in the Bible, and also it goes into our core beliefs, and that goes into the embodiment of soul in us, in our initiative, in our organization, what we're bringing to life. And when we create our leadership team and our governance structure, it provides a roadmap for us to follow when things come up, and a roadmap for how to build the organization itself. We have these to help make us be strong, and it helps when conflict comes up. It helps with creating the documents for liability waivers and creating interpersonal contracts within the organization or within the organization and lease agreements. And so we could have different methods of governance. There's different kinds. There's no one set way to do things. And that's why we go back to our why and our vision. And why are we doing this? What is our vision? What does the parent body around us need? What does the community need? And then we structure it, and we have a governance system to hold our meetings and to hold our organization in this container so that it can move forward perpetually, and we're not walking on each other's toes trying to figure out how to get things done, because we have a system to follow. And this system that the organization carries also reflects into the greater organization of the world. So how do we have it set up? There are options in terms of the public domain with registering, with getting licensing, and all of that fun stuff. And then there's also ways to do it in the private domain that also has contracts, and it has its own governance structure too. So there's different models of protection, and we go over this deeper into the course. And one last part is our fundamental right as parents to direct the education of our children. And this is very empowering for any parent to choose to have their children in a learning center or to have them in a public school or to do homeschool.
I want to share a little bit with you from my own background, having studied Waldorf education for 25 years and working deeply into Rudolf Steiner's work. Now, the Waldorf schools of today are not what they were in Steiner's vision 100 years ago. Certainly, very big changes have been made throughout that course of time. So I'm not saying we need to subscribe to Waldorf schools by sharing some of Steiner's work in the threefold community. The systems that he worked with, which goes through medicine and agriculture and the arts and education, focus on three critical points, much like what we're doing with the first three steps of the course. In this counterforce of social, political, and economic community building, when you cover those three bases, everything else can be built on that strong foundation. So in the social realm, that's where you have social permaculture, and Lee's worked very strongly with the 8 Shields model. We use sociocracy in our meeting style, in our governance plan. These kinds of things weave into the political work that you do as far as interpersonal relations, interface with government agents and agencies, and also managing and governing yourselves around your values, your vision, and your goals. The economic realm, too, can also be redesigned right from the inside of your organization outward. People can use any kind of economy that they want, depending on what your community is speaking to. If they want to run the entire program on barter and gift economy, they can do that if they have the means. If you want to set up tuition scale, you can do that. We're going to help you organize yourselves to make those decisions. There's no set way, as Amber said, to enter this forum. There are many offerings, and you'll have to do the sifting and the sorting to find out which is going to suit you best. We have a map. We don't have all the answers. You'd have them, and your community has them if you don't. So working with ancestral wisdom is really critical here too. We look to indigenous cultural practices as much as we do the sociocracy model, which is circle council and a horizontal governance system. Hopefully that inspires you to want to learn more about this, because we feel, and we're very committed to this work, and we live it with our business work, with our family work, and with our greater communities, that to really have positive change in the world, you have to have it within yourself first. So when you go out to do your outreach and build your community base and hire your teachers or mentors or your guides to create a living structure, that is something that's going to be very important, the first three pieces to build a threefold community: social, political, and economic, ensoulment, governance, and protection. If we think of education as a toolbox that is serving the evolutionary process of the human being, there's no greater calling in the world than to work with children. Children are carrying the dreams, the goals, and the future. within them. Long after we're gone, our work will have resonated through many, many children, and their habits, their values, and their beliefs will all be passed down in lineages. If we look backwards, we can see how that has affected us in the modern time now. Where were your ancestral memories coming from? Where are your epigenetic histories? Where is the trauma in your family? Where was the indoctrination? Where did it start? And what came before that? If you look back and you do the healing required to move forward, then you can look ahead with confidence and interest and enthusiasm at being a change maker. So here in a nutshell are the steps that we're going to work through in the Auditors course. The course itself is designed to be interface with us, where you'll be having regular meetings, giving us your feedback, doing the exercises and activities and the processes that we'll bring to you. Some of them are artistic. Some of their pieces are journaling and reflective work. And everyone will have their own way of integrating and incorporating this into their daily routine, their weekly and monthly work. Once you get through the initial 6 questions, which we'll ask you in the Holding the Vision stage 1, then you'll move on to opening up the content for the leadership and team building, which I already spoke about, and moving on to governance, which Amber is giving you a little snapshot of. These 1-hour group calls are dynamic and exciting, and we will, if we have enough participants, work in breakout rooms so that you can get personalized attention for your questions. Now, I'm not going to tell you too much more about the steps from 4 to 12, but you can see on here, in short, you'll be able to build a handbook. You have templates and samples. You'll get to do financial planning with a really good functional working spreadsheet system, and you'll get to dive into business planning. From there, you'll go on to searching for location and all the different ways that you can land your beautiful vision in a place on earth. Then we open up curriculum choice, how to get into that and how to find and decide what's best for your class, your group, your pod, or your families. And then we'll move on to an outward work of intake, outreach, which are very closely related, but they also have subtle differences that are important to differentiate. The fun part, my favorite part after getting through all of that, and that's why we leave step 11 and supplies to the end, is because that's when you get to decorate and set up your rooms and order all your equipment and really see the physical manifestation of your beautiful dream come to life. But it's not over. After you open the doors and you start your first day, your first term, your first year, then we're going to walk with you to the process of reviewing and assessing and preparing for step 13, which is the mystery step. It's not even listed on here. That one we're going to save for later and tell you what happens after everything is done. I hope you're excited and interested and you want to come with us. Lee, would you like to speak about the one-on-one guidance? Because you offer a lot of great support, as does Amber and I, but if you get Lee, you're great, lucky. You get Lee to help you with your questions. She has a very succinct way of getting you through fear and the complexities that it brings.
So, as part of our full course that we're offering one-on-one guidance for picking, you can pick any of us, all of us, to be able to dive in deeper into one of the or 4 of the different steps, because some of them you're going to feel like you need more guidance in than others. some people already have a clear idea of what kind of outreach, like who they're trying to reach and their parent body and things like that. But you might need more support in terms of filling out a handbook or in sourcing supplies. And so we leave it open so that if you want more support, you can go into those subjects. But then there's also the aspect of the interpersonal transformation that happens with working in this way. And through the 12 steps, it's also because we bring in a lot of different information from esoteric sources, and it can impact the way that your vision unfolds, and you discover things about yourself that you might not have seen before. And when that happens, when the light of our lighthouses shine on yours, like, oh, that's something that I didn't realize was hiding in there. And it's been stopping me from being able to perpetuate the vision that I've had for a long time. Because oftentimes when people are wanting to start a learning center, it's something that they've had within them for a very long time. There's a sense of you're called to be a teacher. You're called to be a guide. And you know that this is within you, but it is a soul development process. And once you start working with us, that will probably open up. And so if you want to work with that specifically, so that the roadblocks and the blind spots that you are seeing happening that have usually been put there because of some kind of traumatic experience, which could be within the traditional school model, that will arise and say, oh, I really need to flesh this out and what is happening here. And to give you a roadmap and a, not even a roadmap, you will find your own roadmap, but to be able to see what the terrain is like, to see and identify the different aspects that are acting upon you in your own personal ecosystem that you didn't see before because you didn't have light on it. So this can be called shadows, and there's no type of judgment there in terms of it being bad. In my practice, it's everything within you is perfect and whole. And so and we all basically believe that about everyone, is that we're all discovering how our ensoulment is unfolding in our biography. So when you're working in this way, we will be there for you, and you have the choice to work with us even more in depth than just with the group calls. So we understand that that's an aspect that's really important and something that we want to support. So the other parts of it is that this is, like Suzanne said, the Auditors course, and we are looking for people specifically who have felt a calling like this and have perhaps tried initiatives in the past, or have been teachers, or have been in some kind of leadership role and understand some of the pitfalls that your own personal journey has set up for you, and where we can come in and support you to find a compass for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we really value individuals who have had those experiences to help us to be able to create a more full course and because we're understanding that we have our own blind spots, just like I was describing with working with other people. We're not perfect in terms of our completion. We are also a work in progress. And so we always want to invite in that kind of feedback so that we can become more and more able to serve in this path that we're on. So that's why we created the Auditors course aspect, and we would love for you to join us.
Thanks, Lee. I want to talk a little bit about the structure of the course itself, because tomorrow, or is it? Yes, tomorrow is one of our orientation open meetings. So we'll answer questions at that time about the time frame of the coursework, expectations about feedback, some bonus offerings that we have for you for participating, and support for our Mentor Circle launch. So those are topics that you can get into tomorrow. And the orientation dates will be set up on the website, so you can go there and check when the next one is. The structure of the actual class content comes from my many years in the Waldorf teacher training work. So I discovered that the process that seems to be every teacher training facility that I went to, which is a number of them, have a similar flow plan. And it was so effective. You can go back to the other slide, Amber, at the end. This one. It's so effective to go through the process in this way. There's an in-breath where you gather yourself together and collect your thoughts and prepare for the day, and an out-breath when you have the opportunity to socialize and talk and gather your comments and the uptake that you've had in the in-breath. And then again, it repeats again. And not only that, but it moves between artistic creative work to really be able to digest some of the concepts that have esoteric qualities, and then simple, practical, I can do it activities that get things moving along so you feel that you've got the reins in your hand. So in order to decide if you want to join this, we don't want you to necessarily jump on board right now. What I really want to invite you to do is to take it into yourself and ask, why would you want to take this course? Why would you want to start a learning center? And why would you want to engage with the pioneers that we are and others that are coming towards us to do this work right now? If you can ask yourself those questions and then sleep on it. I know that there's a famous adage, it's just, I think I just need to sleep on it. And that comes from a very spiritual place, which many people don't realize or understand. Then when you take your questions into your sleep life, you take them into the spiritual world. And there are beings in the spiritual world that are ready to help. They just need to be called on. And time and again, this particular meditative practice, which I've used for many, many years as a Waldorf teacher to answer questions and queries about what's ailing my student, why is my curriculum not capturing the attention of my class? What can I do to improve? How can I solve this problem? A, B, C, D. Time and again, the answer will come to me the next day from my sleep. So I'd encourage you, before you join us, to take the questions you have into your sleep and then write them down upon rising the next day. You might be surprised that this practice might stick. You might use it for more than this. But we would invite you to do that first, to really come into alignment with your soul and your destiny. And we hope to see you on the inside.
So just to be clear, there you can find out more about Alighten and the way we work in the world at alighten.org. And my own practice for therapeutic work is at wayfindersanctuary.com. And then we are on social media where you can see a lot of the initiatives that Suzanne has worked on at Threshold Learning Center in Instagram. And then you can also see Alighten Ministries, which is Alighten, on Instagram. And then to join our wait list for the full course, which will be launching in August after the Auditors course, you can sign up for the waitlist at wayfindersanctuary.com/join us. And there, once you give us your information to join the waitlist, you will be directed to a page to complete signing up for the Auditors course, if that's so you choose after you sleep on it. And then you can also just go directly to the link below at Wayfinder Sanctuary to purchase. So we will, if you have any questions, reach out to us. You'll find the information to reach us at alighten.org and also at Join Us on Wayfinder Sanctuary, but you can also message us on Instagram, on all the socials. So we are available if you have any questions, and we would love to hear from you.
Great. We can answer questions from Narda if you have any, since you're on as our guest today too. So we'll just open it up for a little while if you have anything that caught your attention.
It's all wonderful, and no questions at the second. I mean, there's a lot there, and you know that I was in full mode of creating schools, but internationally. So I have other questions with more international themes with building schools, but personally, I would be interested in doing your course possibly next year, because I see this upcoming year as a coming into being funded for a project, and my whole project involves not just a school but a wellness center in a permaculture garden. So it's kind of a little involved, and I wouldn't see actually like following something like this until probably next year. But I am very much considering doing so with you guys. So yeah, so keep me in touch. And
Thank you. We will. We look forward to your envisioning as well, because we have a lot of alignments with your work, Narda. It's great that you could come on our call today. Thank you.
no, thank you.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that we had mentioned that we wanted to talk about today, but hasn't really come up yet, is that our experience of people that have gone through the other iterations of the course is that the process itself clarifies, because it's being held in a way that there's no failure. If you're not actually going to launch a learning center, it is a guidance for any kind of initiative that is about systemic change. So it's not just for a learning center, but launch your own learning center and to orient towards your own process and what it is that you want to manifest in a physical reality in the material world. So it's not just for learning centers, but oriented around your own path and your own vision, because the vision that you may have been given initially isn't the complete one once you start entering into the process. So just landing that there. And
well, if that doesn't pique the curiosity of more, I don't know what will. So thank you for those outer limits explanations, Lee. That was great, and it leaves us with some food for thought. So we hope to catch up again. We're going to have an orientation tomorrow and Sunday, and there'll be a lot more content in there as well. So stay tuned.
Great, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is Lee, Suzanne, and Amber with Alighten going over the course content for Launch Your Learning Center.